I'm Brother Job Israel, founder and CEO of the Brother Job Israel's Community Redevelopment and AIDS Awareness Corporation, Inc. We go door to door with the AIDS information in the 33147 zip code area, which contains the most cases of reported AIDS. Today, I have as a guest on our program LaShawn Pope. She is the district supervisor of HIV and AIDS programs for the Miami-Dade County Public Schools. I want to welcome you to the program, Mr. Pope. I just have a few questions I'd like to ask you, and I know that the audience would find these answers informative. How is AIDS education taught in the public schools?
Okay. In Dade County Public Schools, AIDS education has been a program since 1987, where we receive funding from Centers for Disease Control to teach from kindergarten to 12th grade. We have a comprehensive program that starts at the kindergarten level and builds up to 12th grade, talking about things that are grade and age specific. Kindergarten to 4th grade, information related to HIV and AIDS deals with disease prevention, germs, washing your hands, keeping yourself safe, not sharing cups and hair products and things like that, like brushes and combs, and just protecting yourself, washing your hands, that type of thing, germ prevention, kindergarten through 4th grade. When we get into 5th grade and higher, we start to talk a little bit more about prevention of HIV/AIDS and treatment. What are things that you can do to prevent HIV and AIDS? Dealing with psychosocial aspects, how are you dealing with a person that's living with the virus, how to take care of them, how to care for them. When we get into the senior high school, we continue to build on the concepts of prevention and treatment, HIV and AIDS, but we also run special programs through our social studies department that deals with HIV/AIDS on a global issue. In the United States, how do we deal with the impact economically on the system as it deals with HIV and AIDS? And they process that through their classes, through American history, economics, and American government. Mm-hmm. So that's how we utilize AIDS in kindergarten through 12th grade.
Mm-hmm. That's very good. I'm a cosmetologist and barber, so when you said combs and brushes, then that hit in my arena. Mm-hmm. Because the combs and brushes, they carry hair, and hair also carries bacteria, so that's a good program you have of making sure that that these combs and brushes are clean, right, and teaching the students, which will bring that all the way up to they're finishing the school, and they can even take that knowledge into the community. What type of staff development activities do you have on HIV and AIDS?
Okay, currently we have a system in place. Since it is required, AIDS instructions required for all of our students, we train initially 2 teachers in every school, which there's over 330 schools in our district. 2 teachers we train in every school to be HIV/AIDS resource teachers. They go back into the schools and they teach the AIDS education in their individual schools. We have a curriculum titled AIDS Get the Facts that we produce locally, which we're in the process of revising over the last 2 years. We're working with people in the community to revise the curriculum, to bring it up to date, to put more activities into the curriculum. But that curriculum is taught through our trainings. We teach the teachers how to teach the curriculum, how to be comfortable with the subject of HIV and AIDS. As you're aware, in the community, people are still very uncomfortable about talking about HIV and AIDS. So a part of our training, our staff development for teachers, is to first give them information about HIV and AIDS, like an AIDS 104. What is AIDS, what causes it, and have them to have good information about it. And then we talk about psychosocial issues, getting teachers to have empathy for people that are impacted by the virus, so they can be able to tell that to the students. We also talk about dealing with sensitive issues, how to talk about sexuality with students, how to be comfortable with dealing with those issues or questions that students may have. So we do that for teachers. We also provide staff development for other personnel in the school system. Could be clerical, could be custodians, wherever the need lies, where there's a group of individuals in the school that feel as though they could benefit by more AIDS education. We convene a group and we go ahead and do training utilizing community persons.
Well, it certainly sounds as if you have a thorough program, and that's definitely what we need to eradicate this terrible disease. What are some of the social programs that young people participate in?
Okay. One of the major programs that we have that's in its third year of existence is our peer education program. We have a peer leadership program in the senior high schools whereby the students are trained to be peer leaders. They receive a full one-day training where they receive AIDS 104 certification from the Department of Health, as well as information on how to do class lessons, how to teach their peers about HIV and AIDS. Utilizing research, knowing that students learn a lot, they like to listen to their peers. And we feel as though empowering peers to give the students the accurate information is a good way to help prevent this disease. So these students receive, like I said, a full day of training, and they go back to their schools and we shadow them. We walk them through their presentations. We get them comfortable with speaking in front of classes. We follow them, you know, we mentor them until they feel comfortable to go and do presentations on their own. Then the students at each individual school takes the ball and continues to roll within their school, developing activities for their schools. As a requirement, because we consider this a peer leadership club, even though it's HIV prevention, but it's for developing their leadership abilities, that once they get out of school that they can still continue to work in this endeavor and others. The students are required to do community service. So we attach the students with local community-based organizations, AIDS service organizations, where they go in, they learn about the organization, but they give back. So not only are they teaching it to their peers, but they go back into the community and they work into community organizations, volunteer hours, where they get to help in those organizations. They work with them at health fairs. They could just be sorting materials in the various offices. But this is a way that the students learn to give back to the community. They develop parties for families that are infected throughout the year. So they do a lot of community activities as well as educating their peers one-on-one. The trainings for the peer education program normally happens on teacher work days, which we found was a good venue. Students are occupied and they want to come. We had a training just last week. It was over 100 students that attended. This is their day off from school. And they decide to come, and parents can feel safe that the students are in a good environment where they're being watched after, where the parents are still working and out of school, and also they're learning things that, you know, can prevent other of their peers from being infected in themselves.
Boy, these are some wonderful programs that you've developed. What is the mission of the program?
The overarching mission of the program is to provide information, prevention information to students, parents, and faculty and staff on HIV prevention.
Okay. All right, I see that you're really creating community leaders, and with the information that you're taking them through, they're armed to bring an end to this terrible disease. How does these programs work with the community?
Okay. The community, we like to tell them the community is our arms. My program, myself being the supervisor, I have 2 teachers that work with me down in the district office that is responsible for helping to monitor the program or assess and help the teachers provide technical assistance in the schools. So we utilize community people and organizations to help educate the schools. We have a speakers bureau where the community persons are trained on policies and procedures in the school systems, what you can and cannot say in the schools, our curriculum, and they go out and they help disseminate information on HIV prevention in the schools as approved speakers on our speakers bureau. With 2 staff persons and over 350,000 students, it would be impossible for us to do it without the help of the community people. So that's where the community organizations come in. They send people to our trainings, our open house. We have open house every other month where people can come down to the school system and get trained on what they can do to help further the cause in the schools.
For 350,000 students. By you training them on the information of AIDS and AIDS awareness, then they're taking this back to their families and to their communities. So I'm sure that that's helping a great deal. A lot of this information that you're giving me, I wasn't aware that this was going on, and I'm sure that a lot of our viewing audience weren't aware also. What disclosure policies? What are some of the disclosure policies for the Miami-Dade public schools?
Okay. A part of our awareness with HIV and AIDS is a parent program. And how I mentioned, I've talked about the disclosure program. I just want to mention that the parent program provides information to parents in terms of the curriculum of the school system, what we're teaching, and their rights as parents. We are working, we're not the primary sexuality education students. We believe parents are. And we want to equip parents to be able to be more comfortable to talk to their kids about HIV prevention. We have programs called Can We Talk, which is a 4-week series, 1 hour a day, where parents can, or we teach parents how to talk with their kids about HIV and AIDS. We also have PTA meetings where we talk to the parents about policies of the school system, as you answered about the disclosure policy. Miami-Dade County Public Schools does not require parents to disclose status of their child. If there is a child in Miami-Dade County Public School that's HIV positive, it is the parent's choice to give that information to a person in the school system. They're not required. We teach our teachers and staff of universal precautions. You know, you have to treat as though people are infected using gloves and barriers. So parents need to understand that they do not have to disclose. If they'd like to disclose, there are consent forms that they have to complete so that they can disclose properly if they want to. But they do need to understand that they don't have to disclose in the school system. It would be their option.
Well, that's the same. That's the same thing in the beauty salons and barbershops, you know. And matter of fact, for the general public,
right?
You know, they can choose to disclose or not. But some of them do, and especially in the beauty shop. And I find that they wind up with less clients. So a lot of them kind of keep it to themselves, you know.
Well, a lot of the school system, they're very comfortable. They've been trained in terms of dealing, you know, with students that are HIV infected. But they also need to know that there are students in our school system that may not disclose. The parents choose not to. So if the students are still in the mainstream schools, if they're able to be in the schools and, you know, function normally, there are no medical reasons why they should be in a different program. They're mainstreamed into our schools. They're there, they're productive, they're working, and teachers just need to know that they're protecting themselves in terms of using barriers. And the students are protecting each other. So a part of us starting from kindergarten in terms of teaching about germs, like if you have a nosebleed, the student knows to take their own hand and use tissue to, you know, protect themselves with their nose. Where another student is not taking the tissue and wiping another student's nose with blood and dealing with bodily fluids, which we know that can transmit the virus. So those are things that are very important for the teachers to know, the parents to know that we're working together to try only to protect them, you know, their kids as well as keeping them in an environment that's safe for them.
It's a wonderful program. Wonderful program. Of course, they're coming up with the knowledge, and as the Bible says, Hosea 4:6, for lack of knowledge, the people perish. So you're giving them the knowledge, so that's actually is doing more than what's on the surface. It's actually saving lives, because through education, that's the key to eradicating this disease.
We try to continue to find creative programs to get the students' attention. You know, AIDS has been around for a while. Unlike us, we wasn't born into AIDS. Kids that are in our school system, since they've been here, AIDS has been a part of their culture.
That's right.
So sometimes they can get immune to it in a sense because it's always been here for them. They start when they were born, AIDS was here for most of our kids in our public schools. So we continue to try to look for programs that provide creative forums for them. Like I said, the peer education program. We have quilt panels, you know, where they can go visit the Names Memorial Quilt. We had a project where we sent them over to the convention center last year, and the students were able to walk through thousands of panels that were dedicated to people that died from HIV and AIDS. There are plays that the students participate. There's a project that we're working with, Scenarios USA, where the students are designing a script for a play on HIV prevention. So we're trying to continue to enhance their skills and use different means for them to get out information about HIV prevention, because kids, you know, you have to be creative to reach them. You can't just sit up and lecture. You have to find different means. And the peer educators are also helping us to find different creative ways to educate our students, so we can make sure that when students leave Miami-Dade County Public Schools, that they're not only educated, but they don't have HIV.
With your peer educators, see, it's I find that with my program going door to door, we meet a lot of young people. So I have young people involved in my program because they speak the same language.
Right.
You know, I'm a lot senior to them, so the words that I express may not be the words that they really understand of these times, you know.
Right.
So that's one important thing that I see that you're doing because they can communicate with each other. What are some of the things that you see that we need to do in the general community?
In the general community, I think that there still continues to need to be education on prevention in terms of not being complacent, even as you deal with school populations. When you have a issue that's been around for a long time, lots of times people tend to be complacent and think that it's gone away. To remind them that HIV is still here, people are still being infected, but there are means and ways that you can prevent from being infected, and that the community needs to know that, and people who are infected need to know that we are supportive of them, to get them into services to help, so that people won't be shamed. As you and I talked about before, there's lots of people have shame and guilt associated with infection, with being HIV infected, and they don't go get help. They keep it to themselves until it's too late. So that the community would know about treatment options available, more social services that will help them to get into that, to be more comfortable with dealing with their virus, their infection, and also talking to their family members about if they're infected, or just having dialogue. The night dinner is not common anymore, but at any opportunity that families have to dialogue with each other, the better we are in terms of prevention, and that the community need to continue to keep it in the forefront.
Yeah, well, that's why I started my company, corporation, because I found that the information wasn't getting to the homes, you know, and in my community, you know, which has the largest rate of AIDS cases reported. So, you know, we go door to door and we sit down with people and talk to them about it, and we take the information from the CDC, you know, Centers for Disease Control, from the Florida Health Department, and from the Dade County Health Department. So it's nothing that we invented. We just want to get the basic information to them. And some people have, you know, a little problem with their reading skills. So that's why we sit down and take our time with them. And I was on a program and speaking about AIDS, and they asked me how do people feel about you coming to their door. And I told them that, I said, most of them are happy, because this is the ghetto we're talking about, and nobody comes to our community, you know. So the people are very receptive, and a lot of them don't even know that they're in the highest rated AIDS section of the city.
Right. I think that one thing is when we put a face with people who are trying to prevent HIV and AIDS, it helps to prevent the spread. Lots of times we see public service announcement, we get brochures, but it seems so far removed. But when you have someone that's in your community that appears to care for your community, and you're connecting, just like with the teens connect with each other, there are persons in the community that you can relate to, your friends, you know, a friend network. If one friend or girlfriend gets information about HIV and AIDS, and they know about how to prevent it, and they share it with their friend, I think those are ways that it can be prevented too, because people connect better with people that they know. So, you know, when you're going door to door, you happen to develop a personal touch that ads don't necessarily receive all the time. So I think that's a good measure, that people develop that personal touch, either going door to door, or when you get yourself knowledge about HIV and AIDS, you pass it on to your girlfriend or boyfriend information. You know, your friend that you're hanging with, when you're talking, you know, talk about that. This is important. It's in our society. It's killing. In Dade County, African Americans account for a large portion of HIV infection. Talking about it, not ignoring it, you know, let them know that I think that helps to spread the knowledge and information and decrease infection in our community.
That's the problem that I found, the complacency, and people are a lot of them into denial.
Right.
That's because they don't really understand it. See, and since they can't see it, a lot of them think that it's not there. They're used to seeing people who are sick or have diseases to have something physically wrong with them. But I know some weightlifters that have HIV. You would never know. You know, I talked to a lady the other day, because I run across all kind of people going door to door, and all type of stories about HIV. And I meet people that you wouldn't think that they had it, and they tell me it surprises me sometimes. But this lady told me that her sister had sex with a gentleman, and this fella happened to be married, and her sister has AIDS. And she told her sister, well, why don't you tell him or tell his wife about it? She said, no, I can't do that. So all this is going on out there, you know, and there just needs to be a place where people can come and where they can sit down and be educated, you know, as far as you know, the disease that they have, and be taught a high degree of morals. And you know, I mean, I don't have AIDS, but I can just imagine a person's self-worth, you know, goes down when they know that they may have just 12 years, you know, before they're going to pass on. And I can kind of understand the despair and even the hurt, and I've talked to people who, they said, I didn't have AIDS. They said somebody gave it to me, you know, and they're trying to strike back some of them. That's why they don't tell people. And our people just need to be more educated in AIDS and AIDS awareness, to know that just because a person doesn't look like they have it.
Right.
And I mean, it's so serious, because I had a young lady on the program from the mayor's office, and she told me that they don't need blood tests for marriage anymore, and that the people have to take it on themselves to make sure that their partner has a blood test. So I told her I was going to add this information on to my program, because a lot of people don't, they have to have the information in order to be able to form the question. So they need to be made aware of this, so that they can tell a person, well, let's go and have a blood test, you know, before we get married, to make sure that, you know, you're not infected, I'm not infected.
Now, one of the things when you talk about testing, we teach the students in terms of communication, you know, developing communication skills. There's a lot of things, and our program is abstinence-based. There are a lot of things that you can talk about with your partner before you get to having sex. So teaching communication skills, how to say no, how to refuse, how to delay. You know, when you're in situations, how to get yourself out of situations. It's about empowering yourself. Teaching students how to empower themselves, even teaching the community how to empower themselves. They want to say no, if they want to say delay. Also, if they're requesting, you know, if a person is being tested, I need to be tested, you need to be tested, to make sure that if you're in a situation, you decide to be sexually active, that you're both HIV free. If you're not, that you know what you need to do to try to help prevent HIV. But you have to empower yourselves, get that information, to feel comfortable to have dialogue. Lots of times people are not comfortable having dialogue, and we tell the students all the time, if you're not comfortable with dialogue, you're not ready for sex anyway. If you're not comfortable with having dialogue, talking to the person, you don't know how many other sex partners, like the example you made of the person that was married, you don't know who else the other person is active with. Okay? So if you're not able to get to a level to have that kind of dialogue with people that you're interacting, there are a lot of things you may miss. So it's important that you really get to know an individual. You know their persons, you know their history, information like that. And if you choose to be sexually active, that you do get tested. Waiting until just before you get married would probably be too late, in terms of their emotions already attached. Now you have to deal with the emotions. Now you're in love and this and that, and now you want to get tested just before marriage. Before you even get into that level of relationship, information regarding your status and testing and how you're going to deal with situations, be it HIV, be it pregnancy, in a relationship, should happen way on. Those are the ways that we handle it, and we try to teach the students to communicate this with their partners before. When they get that comfortable communication, and they can decide and they can make a decision together how they're going to proceed in their relationship, that no one feels forced, and everyone has power in their control in their own issues. We teach them, you know, use your heart, but use your head and be safe. Those are kind of messages.
Now I think that really we have to go back to the church, because everything is in the book, and I believe also in abstinence, and a lot of people think that you can't live that way, but I'm living proof, because I've been abstinent for over 18 years, because I live the Bible, and it says that if a man goes into a woman, then that's his wife, and what comes from her is his responsibility, and a man is to prepare an inheritance for his children's children. So, and then also a man is supposed to have a house, a home for a woman to come to. These things need to be taught, you know, because you say that you love a woman, but then you say that she's got pretty eyes, but then you're not interested really in the eyes. So let's say it the way it is, you know. It's a lot of people are in lust instead of really in love, because if you love a person, then you wish them well, you know. So I think that these are some of the things that we need to get into, and we'll have to do that on another program. Ms. Polk, I appreciate you being here. I'm sure that our audience has been enlightened by the information that you brought us, and you've given me a lot of information that I'm also going to be working on. So thank you for being here. So until next time, this is Job Israel saying shalom.